The story of Africa. Welcome. Welcome to Africa, a continent of vast deserts, dense jungles, winding rivers, and endless savannas. Africa is the birthplace of humanity, where the earliest humans walked, discovered fire, and shaped tools. Every step of human history begins here. Africa feels timeless. It holds landscapes both harsh and beautiful. It is full of life, color, and stories waiting to be told. This is a continent where survival, creativity, and resilience have always been essential. Part 1. The Birth of Africa and Early Civilizations. Africa's story begins with its land. From the Sahara Desert in the north to the tropical forests of the Congo, from the Nile River in the east to the savannas of the south, Africa's geography is as diverse as it is powerful. Mountains, rivers, deserts, and plains shaped the lives of its people, guiding where they settled and how they survived. Africa is the cradle of humanity. Scientists have found evidence that humans first appeared in Africa hundreds of thousands of years ago. Early humans learned to hunt, gather, and adapt. They created tools from stone, wood, and bone, and began to understand fire, shelter, and community. Their survival skills laid the foundation for civilization. Rivers were central to early societies. The Nile River allowed the rise of ancient Egypt, one of the world's first great civilizations. Fertile soil, predictable floods, and access to trade routes allowed Egyptians to farm, build cities, and develop writing. They created monuments, hieroglyphics, and a structured society that lasted thousands of years. Other regions of Africa also grew complex societies. In West Africa, the Niger River and surrounding lands supported farming communities that later became powerful kingdoms, such as Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. These societies were centers of trade, learning, and culture. Gold, salt, and other valuable goods passed through their lands, connecting Africa to the rest of the world. In East Africa, trade along the Red Sea and Indian Ocean connected Africans with Arabia, India, and beyond. Cities like Aksum thrived as centers of commerce, religion, and knowledge. Africa's cultures were rich and diverse. People developed languages, music, art, and traditions that expressed identity, beliefs, and values. Oral storytelling preserved history for generations. Religion, spirituality, and respect for ancestors shaped societies and daily life. Communities were organized around family, clans, and leaders who balanced authority with responsibility. Trade and travel spread ideas and culture. Even before European contact, African kingdoms engaged in trade networks that spanned the continent and beyond. Goods, ideas, and technologies moved across deserts, rivers, and seas. Africa was not isolated. It was connected and dynamic. Empires rose and fell. Powerful African kingdoms built cities, armies, and systems of law. Leaders like Mansa Musa of Mali became famous not just for wealth, but for wisdom, diplomacy, and support of education and culture. Art, architecture, and learning flourished across the continent. Conflict and adaptation were constant. Because Africa is diverse in geography and people, competition over land, water, and resources sometimes led to conflict. Communities adapted by forming alliances, creating strong societies, and innovating survival strategies. By the end of the early civilizations period, Africa was already a continent of great achievement and complexity. Its people had created knowledge, culture, and wealth that influenced regions far beyond the continent. Part 2. Colonialism, Struggle, and Resilience. Power, Conflict, and Transformation. Africa's second chapter is marked by dramatic change. For centuries, African kingdoms thrived independently, trading across deserts, rivers, and oceans. But in the 19th century, Europe's industrial powers turned their attention to Africa. The continent, rich in resources and strategic locations, became the target of colonization. European powers divided Africa with little regard for existing cultures, languages, or borders. This period, called the Scramble for Africa, redrew maps and created new political realities. Borders were often drawn across ethnic groups, splitting communities and creating tension. Colonization brought infrastructure like railways and ports, but it also imposed foreign control and exploited local populations. Africans resisted. From the Zulu kingdom under Shaka to the Ashanti Empire in West Africa, communities fought to defend their land and sovereignty. Resistance took many forms: military struggle, negotiation, and cultural preservation. While many were eventually subdued by European armies, their courage became a lasting symbol of resilience. Colonial rule deeply changed societies. Economies were reshaped to extract minerals, crops, and labor for European markets. Education systems were introduced but often focused on creating workers for colonial administration. Traditional authority and customs were challenged. Many African societies were forced to adapt quickly to survive under foreign rule. Despite hardships, Africa preserved culture and knowledge. Music, storytelling, religious practices, and community traditions continued to thrive, often in secret. Language and art became tools for identity. African scholars and leaders studied both local and foreign knowledge to plan for a future beyond colonization. The 20th century brought new challenges and hope. World wars involved African soldiers, and global ideas of freedom and equality began to influence African societies. Movements for independence grew after 1945. Leaders like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, and Nelson Mandela in South Africa became symbols of liberation. Slowly, colonial powers withdrew, and African nations reclaimed sovereignty. Independence brought both opportunity and difficulty. New nations had to unite diverse ethnic groups, build governments, and create economies almost from scratch. Some countries experienced civil conflict, while others achieved relative stability. Nation-building became a complex process, balancing tradition, modern governance, and global pressures. Africa's resilience was remarkable. Despite centuries of exploitation, conflict, and disruption, the continent maintained its cultural identity and human spirit. Communities rebuilt, adapted, and continued to thrive. Africa's struggle was not only political but also social and cultural, a testament to human endurance and creativity. By the end of the colonial period and early independence movements, Africa had emerged as a continent that could survive great adversity. Its history of adaptation, innovation, and resistance laid the foundation for modern growth. Part 3. Modern Africa: Culture, Diversity, and the Future. Modern Africa is a continent of diversity, energy, and creativity. Its landscapes range from the deserts of the Sahara to the rainforests of the Congo, from vast savannas to bustling cities. Its people speak thousands of languages, follow countless traditions, and celebrate cultures that have persisted for millennia. Africa's population is young and growing. Millions of children, students, and young professionals drive innovation, creativity, and change. Urban centers like Lagos, Nairobi, Cairo, and Johannesburg are hubs of commerce, education, and technology. Startups, markets, and cultural movements are transforming economies and societies. At the same time, rural communities preserve traditional life. Farming, crafts, and local governance continue to be vital for millions. These communities balance modern knowledge with ancestral wisdom, showing that growth does not mean forgetting the past. Education and knowledge are expanding. Universities and schools across Africa are producing scholars, engineers, doctors, and artists who contribute locally and globally. Technology is connecting people, spreading information, and creating new opportunities for learning and innovation. Access to education empowers communities and strengthens nations. Cultural expression is central to African identity. Music, dance, storytelling, art, and fashion are celebrated across the continent. African music genres like Afrobeat, highlife, and soukous inspire the world. Traditional festivals, art forms, and oral histories continue to preserve heritage and teach values. Culture provides continuity, pride, and resilience in changing times. Africa faces challenges, but also opportunities. Poverty, political instability, climate change, and infrastructure gaps affect daily life. However, Africa is finding solutions through innovation, community leadership, and international cooperation. Renewable energy, mobile technology, and agriculture reform are examples of progress. Each success builds confidence for future growth. Africa's influence is global. Its natural resources, talent, culture, and ideas impact the world. African literature, film, music, and fashion reach international audiences. Its scientists, entrepreneurs, and leaders contribute to global discussions on climate, health, and technology. Africa teaches the world the value of adaptability, community, and creative problem-solving. The continent's greatest lesson is resilience. Africa's people have survived invasions, slavery, colonization, and conflict. Yet they continue to innovate, celebrate life, and preserve culture. This resilience is not only survival, but a form of creativity and hope. The ability to face challenges and turn them into opportunity. Modern Africa is a story still being written. Its youth, leaders, communities, and creators are shaping the next chapters. Africa shows that history, culture, and human ingenuity together can overcome adversity. Its story reminds humanity that survival, growth, and identity are deeply connected. Africa is not just a continent. It is a living example of human endurance, diversity, and possibility. It teaches that even under the harshest conditions, life can flourish, ideas can thrive, and culture can endure.